I'm going to talk about TypeScript today. So TypeScript is what we call a superset of JavaScript. Now, that's a very complicated word, but essentially, if I could just summarize it for you, it just basically means you don't have to learn anything different. So what TypeScript actually does, it adds types to your JavaScript. So for example, if we had parameters, arguments, instead of just throwing anything in there, we can restrict it and say, hey, this can only be a number. TypeScript can also be quite flexible in the sense that you can also put in a string or number, which is quite cool. So you can put in both a string or a number. TypeScript is necessary when you have a big, large scale project and you are perhaps working in a collaborative team where maybe people are looking at your code 6 months after you wrote it. What TypeScript does, in a sense, it kind of builds a contract that the new person looking at your code has to follow. And you have guidelines on how to use certain functions. Why am I talking about TypeScript? There's two levels to it. Level one is for the junior developer. You as a junior developer, you're never really going to see the benefits of TypeScript because you will never ever build a project that's big enough. TypeScript is necessary when you have a big, large scale project and you are perhaps working in a collaborative team where maybe people are looking at your code 6 months after you're doing something different. You could be working in a different company. So, what TypeScript does, in a sense, it kind of builds a contract that the new person looking at your code has to follow. And you have guidelines on how to use certain functions inside your JavaScript code. So, that is why you as a junior developer would want to use TypeScript. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't really need TypeScript though. Like, what is the point of learning it? And I'll just be honest with you, most jobs require TypeScript nowadays, unfortunately. But another key and important thing to using TypeScript for your personal project, it will make you more productive in the long term. And with programming and getting a job, I'm going to be completely honest with you, it's all long term stuff, right? There are no shortcuts, right? So if you do not learn TypeScript now, it's going to bite you at some point in the future. Like many things we don't learn in the beginning of programming. If you don't learn data structures and algorithms, if you don't learn vanilla JavaScript, if you don't learn the core fundamentals, you might be successful in the beginning. But as time moves on, it will be harder and harder for you. So, and to illustrate my point with TypeScript, why I think it is going to be harder and harder for you, think about it like this. Let's say you are in a large scale application or you need to explain your code to a client, okay? Or, a potential employer. I have been in situations where people have asked me, what does this do? And I look at them and I go, I have no fucking clue. So by adding TypeScript, that's less likely to happen. The next part I'm going to talk about is big organization. You have teams spread across, and these teams are using different functions created by different developers at different times. Your code base is several years old. I think in large scale applications, you absolutely need TypeScript. And a lot of what I said about junior developers having a contract guidelines and also having the ability to know what they're actually doing also applies to large companies because at the end of the day, you're not a small company, you're not a individual developer. If your product crashes because of a runtime error, then you have a big problem because that's going to cost you a lot of money. Your customers are going to be upset. They might leave, and the product, you're essentially destroying the product you've built by allowing these errors to come in. When you use TypeScript, it's less likely these errors happen. So for example, I was working on a code base where we had a runtime error, where an object was undefined. That's a simple, the TypeScript compiler just wouldn't allow that because of ESLint. So it would just say, hey, this object is possibly null. Can you, handle your code so when it's null, it does something different. So I would just look at it like that. If you're a large scale business, do you really want your application to hit a runtime error, crashes, and then your customers can't use it and then they start leaving your platform? I would heavily recommend TypeScript.